Another program you're very familiar with, and you specifically highlighted one that you wanted me to discuss, was the Virginia Range Horse Program. Briefly bring you up to date on what the present situation is. We had a helicopter count in August of this last year, which was done jointly with one of our veterinarians and representatives of the advocacy groups. They had maintained that my figure of 1,200 head was absolutely incorrect, and I have to tell you, they were right. We counted 1,448 animals, and so we are now estimating my figure of 1,200 was wrong. We do think now there's 1,500 to 1,600 horses in the Virginia range. So the population continues to grow very well. We have a USDA NRCS report, a very extensive range survey done 2 or 3 years ago. Their recommendation was that that mountain can only safely handle 550 horses. So we have about 3 times as many horses up there as what we should have. I recently solicited an opinion from the Attorney General in regards to who actually owns those horses. And I pretty well knew what that opinion was before I solicited it, but I wanted it down in black and white. Those horses are clearly state property, and they're to be treated as such. We had numerous memorandums of agreement with various advocacy groups for the removal, adoption, whatever of those horses. None of this made sense to me when I came here. I finally kind of decided to take a pretty close look at it. In December, I asked our Brands Investigation Division to do an in-depth investigation of the status of the horses which were in the various advocacy groups' possession. I had 3 of our best investigators work for 3 weeks. I might add, in some aspects, that investigation is ongoing. And I think I can summarize it to tell you we followed Virginia range horses from California to Texas and places beyond. It came to the realization that the department had absolute zero accountability for what was happening to these horses, and this was a position I did not wish to place myself in. So I made a determination from this point on, we will have 100% accountability for any and all horses that come off that range. I informed all organizations they could claim the horses in their possession for $1 each. They would have to have a livestock certification to make that binding, and they could take their horses and be gone. I also made it very clear that any horses in anybody's unaccounted for possession from that point on would be treated as grand larceny and dealt with accordingly. We will be signing a memorandum with VRPA, which is the Virginia Range Protective Horse Association. I deem them the only organization which is legitimate, and they're the only organization the department will work with. They are not an adoption agency, and they don't deal directly with adoption, but I'm asking them to be the intermediary on all future adoptions. They will be our clearinghouse, so to speak. I'd like to talk about the political situation with horses just a little bit because it's definitely compounded the situation. As you realize, Senator Ensign earlier this year sponsored a bill which prohibited slaughter of horses in the United States. That bill passed overwhelmingly, and at this point in time, all horse slaughterhouse facilities in the United States are closed. This was an industry that processed between 50 and 100,000 horses annually. In addition to that, hay prices have skyrocketed this last year, which has complicated the problem. For example, the Brands Division picks up the stray horses all across Nevada, discounting the Virginia range situation. In 2007, we picked up somewhere around 10 horses. In 2008, we picked up around 57 stray horses. Thus far this year, we picked up over 30. These are simply horses that people no longer want, and they turn out under the mistaken assumption they will become wild and go with the wild horses. Nothing could be further from the truth. These horses would be rejected by wild bands under any circumstances, and for the most part, simply stand about where they were turned out, which is usually on a state highway someplace. I believe that This has presented a danger to the public, so I've instructed the brands department to pick these horses up as rapidly as they can, and we process them through the normal stray procedures, which are advertised. If nobody claims them, we sell them. It's just that simple. The adoption market is saturated, so we have little other choice. How that affects our situation with the Virginia range horses, as that population increases, it continues to put more pressure on surrounding developments, housing areas, and in particular Highway 50. We've had a number of horse-car incidents on Highway 50 and related roads. I believe we've had about 24 of those in the last year. Fortunately, to the best of our knowledge, none have resulted in death. And that to me is a miracle, because in my lifetime I've had two close personal friends both killed instantly by hitting a horse with their car, because the normal procedure is if you're going 50 or 60 miles an hour or faster, the horse comes up over the hood, comes through the front windshield, and lands inside with you, and normally you do not survive that. Because these are state horses, I think this places the department and ultimately state in a precarious position if we do not take every action we possibly can. So we are removing these problem horses as rapidly as we can. We are not putting them back on the range. We are simply removing them. At this point in time, we put them in the Stewart facility. Some of the horses actually do go into their training program. It's a very minor number. These, when they're properly trained, are sold. And the last particular sale which was held was pretty much a failure. So people are not buying these horses at this point in time for all the above reasons. It costs us $2.50 a day to keep a horse in this facility. And I can do the math rather simply for you, but if we keep 50 horses in that facility on the average for a year-long period of time at $2.50 a day, we just spent $45,000 of general fund money. First of all, I don't have that money to spend, and secondly, as Director of the Department of Agriculture, I will not authorize it to be spent even if I had it. So we are forced to do the only thing I know to do, and that is do our level best to adopt the horses we have. First and foremost, we will place them in sanctuaries if we possibly can. And third, the hardcore fact is I will sell those horses. And I've made that determination. And I'm fully prepared to take the heat that it'll bring forth. I'm sure Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg will be paying me another visit, and I'm sure that the governor's telephones will be blocked again because of all the protests. I'm willing to listen to any logical solution, but frankly, I have heard none, nor can I imagine where it's coming from. We will be forced to sell horses, and I'm prepared to do that, and I'm telling you that's what I'm going to do. In conclusion, if you don't mind, I'd really like to switch to a happier subject, and that is our facility.
Before you switch, we're just trying to figure out who Snoop Dogg is. Is that the rapper?
Yes. Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson.
Well, we kind of heard of Willie Nelson, but we weren't sure.
No, Snoop Dogg was with Willie Nelson when they came down to me real hard.
Oh.
And that's fine. It'll happen again, and I'm prepared for it. It's part of life.